Hello, fermented folks, and welcome to another episode of Fermented Fiction. As you can tell, I'm not my brother, who is the one who usually brings us into the show, but he'll be here soon, so you don't have to tolerate my abysmal hosting skills for long. Today, we have a very exciting episode. We have a returning guest, Rae Wilde. Thank you for coming back on the show, Rae.
Very happy to be here.
And we are talking about a movie that may be some people's favorite, maybe some people's least favorite. It's going to be a mixed bag. We'll see what everyone thinks. Very famous, though, especially in the horror circles. 2011's, that's right, 2011. This is a 14-year-old movie, people. The Cabin in the Woods, directed by Drew Goddard and written by Drew Goddard and Joss Whedon. But before we do that, we've got to have some personal updates. Sorry for my barking dogs. And, of course, we're going to have Rae end with the personal updates to tell everybody who you are. But before we do that, Colin, you just hopped in, putting you on the spot. You have a personal update for us today.
Yesterday, Tamara and Clay had an event at the downtown Seattle Public Library, which was their release tour of Rain Shadow. So they each wrote short stories in that collection and have a whole podcast dedicated to it. And they got interviewed by, I think, Nina Veal. And it was a lot of fun. And it was a great time for the HWA and Cascade Writers, and had a nice little crowd of people in a great location. And shout out to Clay, who at one point said that he, since it's horror, he could turn the dial up on everything. And I was like, that's a really good definition of, I really like that for horror. It's just a genre where they turn the dial up on everything.
Yeah, that's awesome. Jeremy, what you been up to?
Oh, well, I have been up to like the usual stuff. However, my niece has been up to some crazy stuff because she turned 1 yesterday. An entire year old. That's
Wow.
Oh yeah.
Exciting.
Oh yeah.
Exciting.
Oh yeah. I mean, she's about the size of a 2 or 3 year old, so we're all very excited for her.
I feel like from 1 to 5, I can never guess. I'm just like, where are you on this age level spectrum? Like, are you?
Yeah, Travis is just going up to children and being like, "Excuse me, what are you?
Okay,
Where are you?"
People, I want Jeremy's little setup there to not be misconstrued. I work at a school, so it's not like I'm just finding random children. Okay, especially mustache.
Come on, guys. It's perfectly explicable.
Speaking of this mustache, you might think that I'm a fan of nicotine via my appearance, and you'd be right. But my update is I might have GERD, which sucks. It's like a elevated form of heartburn that causes you to literally throw up. And so I'm sure you all wanted to know that, but that's the most personal update I've had this week, is that I got to quit the old nicotine. Good for my heart, good for my health, bad for my personal enjoyment. But, please help me on this journey, people. With that, all those updates. Rae, we love having you on the show every time you come on. Can you please tell the people who you are, what you've written, and anything going on in your life that we might want to know?
Yeah, so I'm Rae Knowles, Rae Wilde, depending on the book. I just got to announce that my collection called I Do Not Apologize for My Position on Men is going to be re-released from Shortwave, which I'm very excited about. So that'll be coming out next summer. Pre-orders will probably be up by the end of the year. So that's great. And I have other publishing news loading. But, if you're familiar with publishing, that could take 8 to 10 business years before I can officially announce it. But exciting stuff ahead. And thanks so much for having me back. Really, any excuse to get into an argument, and I'm going to show up.
Fantastic. See, I didn't unmute. I'm playing the part of my brother well. I didn't unmute myself when I started to talk.
Yeah, you really going the
All
extra
right.
mile.
Thank you, Jeremy. I commit to every role. We were both in theater. So now is the time. The protein, the middle, the bulk of the episode that people love, the debates. Today we've got two great debaters. We've got representing Fermented Fiction, Colin Poynton, and our guest, Rae Wilde. And they're going to be debating the classic Cabin in the Woods. I would call it a modern classic. Very, very famous in the horror circle. We'll see what we all actually think. Really short synopsis. Warning, we do spoil everything on the show. Cabin in the Woods starts as the most stereotypical horror movie you could ever imagine. A bunch of college kids go into a cabin in the woods and quickly turns into a parody / horror / I don't know, trip, really, is kind of the best way I could describe it. We'll get into spoilers, but I don't like to talk about this in a general plot sense because it kind of ruins the whole vibe. But we will definitely have more discussion. Rae, do you have dice with you, or do you need one of us to roll for you?
I got a roller here, courtesy
Right.
of Google.
And Colin, yeah, I saw you had yours. All right.
Big
Roll
one
them
for the
dice.
serious roles.
Roll them dice.
Okay. I got a 9.
Got a
Colin?
16.
16 for
Ooh.
Fermented Fiction. That's a good roll for us. All right. That means, Colin, you're going to be arguing for this product, this movie, whatever you want to call it. And Rae, you're going to be arguing against. Colin, you're going to kick us off. Jeremy, do you have our 10-minute timer?
You know I do. I've had it the whole time. And yeah, so what we're gonna do, everybody, is we're going to get started. We're gonna have a good old-fashioned debate. Maybe new-fashioned. Maybe there's a lot of twists and turns. Maybe some wild shit happens at the end. You don't know. And frankly, neither do I. So we are going to just start that in 3, 2, 1, go.
All right. Well, Cabin in the Woods, why it's so good. I mean, basically there's something in it for everybody. So it's a lot of people, like I've shown Cabin in the Woods to like a lot of people that I've met, because like it comes up in conversation. Oh, it's like Cabin in the Woods, you know, this horror scene is like Cabin in the Woods. And they're like, what? And I go, you haven't seen Cabin in the Woods? That movie? The like with Joss Whedon and stuff? Oh, okay, we're watching it. So I've seen it multiple times with multiple people. It doesn't matter if they're fans of horror or not. They probably know the tropes of horror anyway, even if they're not like into horror or slashers or whatever. Like it has something for everybody. It's funny and it's subtle, but it also has parts that are just way over the top intentionally. And it's clearly like other movies, like we talked about Scream recently, and how it really makes fun of a lot of the very tropes that it's buying into and changes them a little bit. And this like, I mean, this film was probably at least partly inspired by Scream, as well as all sorts of other super famous, popular, and great horror movies of the past. And it plays with all the tropes. And some of them it just goes with as its main plot line, and other ones it like makes fun of in a great way. So it's always playing this cerebral game with its audience of like, this is entertaining for people who are aware of these tropes, but also here's some other ones that are like funny because they remind us of something and they're comical and they're meant to be, especially back to back. And it just sort of touches on, you know, how would this work in real life? And, you know, finding a virgin might be kind of hard. So we just do our best, to use a Sigourney Weaver line from the film. It's fantastic. And the acting's great. And like everything can just be like, everything that happens that's ridiculous kind of has a reason for it. And we find that out eventually. That's my first point.
Rae, you're up.
I'm up. All right.
Yeah.
So I hear you, Colin. I really do. And I won't argue that this film has some fun moments. But let's talk for a minute about what it fails to achieve. Okay. I think Cabin in the Woods reads to me as two writers desperately trying to prove that they are more clever and smarter than horror fans. They take all of these horror tropes and it's successful in having some fun moments. However, I think it really falls down where they're unable to actually subvert the horror tropes that they are trying to make fun of. I'll give you a great example. The scene with the woman who is supposed to be the quote unquote whore figure in the cabin. She has to be the first one to die, etc. Goes out into the woods. They give, they fill the air with pheromones so that she just can't, resist taking her clothes off for another moment. And they sort of make a joke, in the office setting that she's going to take her top off, and they're really rooting for her to take her top off. And then she does. And then her breasts are on screen for a gratuitous amount of time. I would argue if it's your intention to poke fun at the idea of horror movies, sexualizing women, taking this misogynistic viewpoint, you can't then replicate the exact same thing in your movie. It is so clearly for the pleasure of the writers. And I think they think that they're being clever, but you failed the test right there, right? Like if you were being clever, you would make the joke and then not actually do the thing. That would be subverting it, but they don't do that at all. I would argue that having Sigourney Weaver in a film and giving her that little screen time should send you directly to prison. The audacity to bring in this goddess of Sigourney Weaver and have her, I don't know, what is it, 2.5 minutes of screen time? Right there. It's unforgivable in my mind. I think too, I hear people talk about Cabin in the Woods as being this achievement in horror, and it's rendered entirely meaningless without the context of all the horror films that came before. So again, while the writers are very clearly poking fun at all the tropes of horror films in the past, their film cannot exist without them, right? It loses all of its cleverness and witty jokes without the context of everything before, right? So it's sort of this creation on top of a foundation that the writers seem to be poking fun at. And then let's talk about the ending. What a massive, massive cop-out of an ending. I would say when we get to the point where our characters know that they are going to die either way, I struggle to understand any motivation that would make a person go, let's just let everybody die with us. That's so unconscionable and unearned, even within the context of the film, that I understand that the writers are trying to make a point that, horror as it currently exists needs to die, and we need to rebuild something totally new because all this old stuff is dead. But it just doesn't land. Those credits roll, and you just do not feel good about that ending. I'll say too that while I think there are really fun moments in the beginning of the film, and that the characters feel really distinct and well written at the beginning of the film, those characterizations are abandoned almost immediately once they get to the cabin. And I think that, it's supposed to be that they're being manipulated to fall in line with these horror tropes, which I get, but it wasn't pulled off successfully. And those characters just stop being fun and interesting, right? Like, I think the transformation wasn't dramatic enough for it to be impactful to the audience. And we lose all the things that made them fun in the first place. So I just think it, as a film, has some fun beats, but all in all, I think it really falls down on what it's trying to be. I'll also throw in that we know that Josh Whedon is a creep. So, there is that. And I think that he's not as smart as he thinks he is. And I think it's pretty clear to anybody who's critically watching the film that these are two guys that thought they were smarter than they really are. And is there really a worse sin than that? Thinking you're smarter than you really are? I would say no. And with
All right,
that,
I got to jump in for some of these points. First, Sigourney Weaver. I mean, if of course giving her more screen time would be awesome, but like there's a lot of characters to follow in the movie, and we're following multiple points of view at various times. And like, if we had her earlier in the film, because she's like the invisible director who's up top making the decisions. And if she was in that earlier, I just think it wouldn't work. Like having her as a surprise at the end, it just makes sense that like this is the person who makes the decisions and has the authority to do it. And like there she is, and we fully believe it when she appears and makes that passionate speech for them to make the rational choice, the logical choice of saving the world, which, you know, spoiler alert, they don't. And I think the film does a really good job also at like it parodies horror audiences, right? These guys are making bets for which horror trope these people are going to die from. And it's just like, yes, it's alienating. And it is, I think, actually making a commentary about like us as horror fans, like what we expect and would bet on, you know, when is she going to show her boobs? Let's find out. Here we go. You know, how much money are you going to put down? What are we going to get? And so like, I think the film is kind of like a window, like there's a fourth wall, and it does almost break it at times, but it does kind of show these people fully. And you know, they have serious flaws that we should not just agree with them. And in the case of the main characters, like they get a physics book down at the beginning of the film, which makes no sense in most horror films that actually are made, you know, our virgin character wouldn't be pure. Like she actually thinks for herself and can talk about complicated classes, and so can the jock to one another. And we just start that right at the beginning of the film, and it continues.
Shut up. We're done. It is time to be done.
Damn.
Beer of the week.
Beer
Of the week, or
indeed.
drink, or substance,
drink.
whatever
We're
you're
like-
enjoying.
We're like hanging out of the week.
Yeah, we're just
Speedy
hanging out.
vibes.
Yeah, just like I see. I'm so bad with character names. I should know this. I've watched this movie like 50 times, but just like Marty, we're just hanging out like Marty.
Yeah.
Jeremy, what are you drinking? What are you bringing to the table?
Well, you see, what I am doing today is, you know, much like they do at one point in the movie, celebrating prematurely that they've killed all these young people. I am having a margarita.
Heck yeah.
Tequila is my lady. So I went out and I got George Clooney's tequila.
Oh,
So there you go.
I learned that George Clooney has a tequila today. Thank you, Jeremy.
Thank you.
And,
Yeah, I do what I can to spread this quality information to the world. And you should really thank How to Drink because it won his Margarita Matrix.
Ah,
Yeah.
gotcha.
So there you go.
Colin,
Cheers, everyone.
what'd you bring to the cabin in the woods?
I brought a befitting Benedictiner hell.
Oh, damn.
All right.
Both cabin and hell.
It's a lager beer, product of Germany, brought to you by the town of Lick Hesse. So thanks, Lick Hesse.
Love it. I am drinking. I'm going to try and get these guys to sponsor us. Valhalla Meadery in Bozeman, Montana. This is the All Fathers Sweet, which is their like main kind of seller. They're like standard mead, and it's very good, very sweet honey wine. Love it. Ray, did you bring anything?
yeah, I have Publix natural spring water. Publix is our grocery store chain here in Florida.
So good.
But I also have a
Vintage.
tiger's blood vape, which sounds very hardcore, and it's wonderful.
I'd definitely
Don't
be
try it,
flipping-
Travis. You're enabling Travis. He just told us to
No,
help him.
I'm sorry. I
all right.
drive off a bridge, Travis.
Vapes don't get me. Vapes don't get me. But please don't throw in a nicotine bag. I'll die on air. Anyway, I loved it. Great debate. We have our drinks, and now we got some trivia. If you have trivia facts, I hope, Colin, it's all right. I'm going to take a little bit on this, but if you have some, please jump in.
I do have one or two. Let's see if you get them.
Okay. My favorite one was that Fran Kranz, the guy that plays Marty, is the only one to remain fully clothed on the dock when they're all swimming, because he was so jacked that they thought it would like throw people, like it wouldn't be continuity with the film. And I think you can see that in like still pictures of when he's holding the like baseball bat with the chain wrapped around it. You can see him like kind of flexing through his shirt, and he's just huge, like yoked. I love that they were like, we can't pull attention away from Chris Hemsworth, so Fran, keep your shirt on. So good. Joss Whedon and Drew Goddard wrote this script in 3 days, which Ray alluded to before the show, and that's pretty awesome. They made over 60 different types of monsters. So lots of background kind of work and possibility in there, which was cool. One of them is Kevin is on the whiteboard. Kevin is a reference to Sin City, the Frank Miller graphic novel, and the Elijah Wood character in the movie. So Kevin was possibly a monster that was just going to show up and start killing people. Tons of Easter eggs, too many to get into. Jamie Lee Curtis was considered for the role of the director, which would have been just as awesome as Sigourney Weaver, but it ultimately went to Sigourney Weaver, and we're all so happy for that. Drew Goddard also wanted Bruce Campbell to play the director, which would have also been fantastic, but I am glad they went with Sigourney.
I mean, it should have been all three.
It should, all of them.
Why not?
All of them.
Yeah, just get them all.
Are the director. The Harbinger was cast using a scene that had him fighting with a vending machine over $1 while remarking on some pretty big and kind of out there existential ideas. So that was like their little casting call scene that they had him read.
That's amazing.
Yeah. One of my favorites I saw was that Drew Goddard said he was inspired to write this film from his actual like childhood growing up in New Mexico near like the nuclear testing facilities, and just seeing people in his regular neighborhood walking around, living their normal lives, going to work every day in science coats, and like getting into high school and realizing like, oh, they're going to build things that could actually just destroy the world. Like, so he had this idea pop into his head from that experience. We get inspiration from all different kinds of places. I think I could go on forever. This movie has a ton of fun facts, but Colin, what did you bring to the table as your favorites? Did I miss your favorites?
There's all kinds of cameos for the monster creatures, like you said. And let's see. The Egyptian cat statue in the basement is what summons a giant cat. And that's all it is. It's just a giant cat is one of the monsters.
Sick. An indifferent god thing.
I guess
I can dig it.
test audiences, the best scene for the test audiences was the merman scene, which honestly, I'd probably vote for that one too. Jeremy, you got anything? Or Ray, we are opening the floor for any fun facts y'all might know.
Well, I know of a few different theories about this film. The first of which is that this film is part of an extended universe comprising of Joss Whedon's other properties like Buffy the Vampire Slayer and Firefly. where this is just, simply another shadowy government organization manipulating world events and trying to harness the powers of mysticism through sci-fi technology, like you have in all of those. The theory is the events of this film end the world in such a way that leads to the world of Firefly, which is fun. And yeah, why not? Might as well. Yeah. There is another theory out there that the reason that that the world ultimately ends at the end of this movie is because the group that is putting these kids into this horror scenario got the roles wrong, wherein Marty would be the virgin and what's her name, Dana, is the fool.
Oh.
And that's ultimately why things happen.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
can see it.
That's why the whole thing falls to shit. Yeah. So there you go. But that's all I've got for theories. You already took my thing about Fran Kranz being
Jack.
just distractingly ripped.
That's my favorite fact.
It's really nice to know.
So I learned that Marty's coffee mug bong was fully operational and the prototype cost $5,000 to make. But what I want to posit, perhaps a hot take. So early in the film, you see him get out of the car with this, coffee mug bong. And he posits that cops will never pull over a man who is driving with a huge bong in his car because, he says he can see farther than the police can. And in my college days, I spent many a morning, evening, and night driving around with a huge bong in my lap while I drove and was never pulled over. So he may be onto something. Don't try that at home, though. That's not giving.
We don't encourage, but we be curious.
We simply notice.
We just notice.
Observe and we report.
Yeah, exactly.
It's points of data we're just throwing out there.
I'm sure they can sell. I'm sure they still sell those, like the I bet it was made after. I don't know for certain, but if they didn't capitalize off of that invention, they missed out on a huge marketing opportunity. For the movie's success, it barely eked out as a success. So it made 2.4 times its production budget, which was $30 million. It made $70,683,134 in the worldwide box office. But then if you consider, I think this kind of solidifies it as maybe a cult movie. I'd say a cult status is that it made 14 million in DVD sales and Blu-ray sales alone. And that has been my experience. I don't know what about all y'all, but I'd love to hear if it's been your experience as well. That like when this came out, I remember my brother and I watched it and we were like the only ones. And a few of my friends watched it and they were like disappointed in it because it was advertised as a slasher. And also Chris Hemsworth was like not quite caught yet. Yeah, it was a very strange thing where he'd like just kind of become the Marvel guy. Then this happened and everyone was like, oh, it's like a slasher. And then a few people went and were like, it's not really a horror movie. It's stupid. That was my experience growing up with it. And me and my brother were the ones that were like, no, it's not supposed to be this thing you think it's supposed to be. Like, go watch it. And now more people I talk to have been like, oh yeah, I've definitely watched that on streaming and stuff. So I don't know. What is that what y'all kind of had as an experience with Cabin in the Woods, or was it super popular in your circles?
Oh, I was in a bad place in 2011, so I totally missed the theatrical release of this. This was 1 year before my first rehab. So I don't know. So I guess I caught it later on, probably, streaming or DVD or something like that. But the people I know have always like really enjoyed it in that sort of cult classic kind of way. But I don't remember hearing anything about it at release, but I am a biased test group.
Yeah, you know, there wasn't really all that much to hear about when this thing was coming out. Because, I mean, the marketing around it made the people who would otherwise be like super interested in it feel like, oh, it's just like a boring, it's like another slasher. It's just a regular, you know what's going to happen before you even walk into the theater. Why even bother to see it? But then the people who wanted to see it based on that were super turned off by this just bananas ass twist ending and like subversive corporate through line of everything that like basically almost no one who went and saw this in theaters was satisfied with what they saw. And it was only weirdos like Clay and Travis who made this thing popular at all. And I'm pretty sure the first time I even watched this movie was with Clay. So
that wouldn't surprise me. He shows it to everybody.
Yeah, he just goes off on that. Yeah. So, you know.
Speaking of showing it to everybody, that's a terrible segue, but I always
What are you showing?
Don't even
see.
I pitched that one slow pitch to you. I was hoping you'd take it.
Thank you.
But I do want to know what everyone's real opinion is. So Rae, you were the negative and you did real good. You maybe swayed me on a few ideas of this. I still am a big fan. But you pointed out some things that I loved to hear. Did you lie at all, or are you actually a cabin in the woods dissenter?
No, I definitely lied a lot. I have a lot of fun with this movie. I watch it almost every year around Halloween, but I do sort of stand by my points. I love it. I think it's fun. I am not a believer in horror comedy. I think comedy is such a tension breaker, and horror having to rely on the building of tension, I just don't respond well to the combination. I think of the horror comedies, this is my favorite one. I think, like I said, the writing, especially in the beginning of the characters, is super sharp, really clever. One of my favorite scenes is the initial, the one that dyes her hair blonde. I'm terrible with the names too. They make the joke where she has the textbook and the boyfriend's like, who told you about these? Who gave you these? Like, that's really funny because like they are subverting it. You would think that they're like the dumb jock couple, and then they're not. And like, that's really fun. And Mordecai is incredible. The scene where he's on speakerphone, and they're like making fun of him and he's being super intense. Like, all of that is super fun. But I do think there are some legitimate gripes that I have with it. The boob scene being a big one. It's kind of like, all right, really, Josh Whedon, like we know you're a creep, but okay. And I truly take issue with Sigourney Weaver being on screen for such little time and dying the way that she did. The other thing I would say is Marty's character, he's really fun. He sort of steals the show, but they write him, like, I get the sense watching him that they smoked a lot of weed in addition to thinking that they're smarter than they are, because he is not only the smartest, he's the bravest, he's the most physically capable. And it's like, he's supposed to just be this like pothead college guy. Like, you kind of got to pick one. Like, why are you low-key like the superhero of the film? Like, I don't know if that makes sense. But I do think it's a really fun movie, and definitely like as horror comedies go, it's got my top spot for sure.
Colin, what about you? Were you lying at all? Are you actually a hater in disguise, or are you a big fan?
Oh man, this film sucks. No, it's I didn't have to do anything. I told Clay yesterday that I was like, I hope I don't have to argue against this film because I don't know what the F to say. And so shout out to Rae for like nailing a bunch of good points against it. Yeah, I think I literally have shown it to a bunch of people. I feel like people who don't like horror still love this film. Plus there's always the like, oh, did you like Firefly? Well, this is also related to that and just as good. And then also Drew Goddard has written like everything. Like you've probably seen, I don't know, Daredevil, the TV show, or The Martian, or the upcoming Project Hail Mary, or Buffy, or Lost, or all the Cloverfields. You know what I mean? Like there's something in it for everybody. Plus kick-ass actors in the entire movie that went on to do awesome stuff. So it's definitely, I mean, yeah, we'll see what Clay says rolling up in here. But yeah, I mean, it might be my top horror film, my fave.
That is high praise, and I think you might hear the same from Clay. I'm not sure, but I do want to say, Rae, I really liked your point about like Joss. Like if I were to argue against you, I kept thinking like, oh, what would I propose? And I think it's like, I want to believe, and maybe I'm wrong, I might be completely wrong, but I want to believe for my own self that every moment that's like, oh, this seems like it's trying to be more clever than it actually is. Like Joss Whedon wrote that. And every moment where it's actually clever, I'm like, that's Drew Goddard. We're just going to give him the credit for all the good scenes, and we can maybe take away, which is probably wrong, but it's fun for me to do that. Clay, rolling in here hot.
Oh, yeah. That's the only way I can roll.
Tell everybody how much you hate Cabin in the Woods.
0%. I love Cabin in the Woods. That is why I was not about to debate it, because I have talked about it on this show way too many times, and in all my circles way too many times. And it's one of those shows. I think there's maybe 2 or 3 that I couldn't convince anybody I hated it, no matter how hard I tried. That said, I've watched it enough times, and there's always the low-hanging fruit of just Joss Whedon as a person that I could have picked on. So there are ways, but I love Cabin in the Woods. It's not only one of my favorite horror movies, but just one of my favorite movies, genre excluded, for lots of reasons that I'm sure we'll get into. And Ellie agrees with me. She likes to watch horror movies with me, so she's on board as well.
I would love to add, for my rewatch of this, I watched it with my son who is 11, and I'd love to just give you his take, which will be very quick. He said, quote, "It was fine," which I think will infuriate both lovers and haters of Cabin in the Woods. So
Right.
I had to throw that out there.
That is ice cold.
Ice cold take.
The only people that
Ruthless.
won't infuriate is middle school teachers, because you know that it was fine. That's like, you said something. I got something out of you. Thank you. So I think that's high praise. Jeremy, what did you think?
Well, I do really enjoy this movie. On a rewatch, though, there are a lot of things that just kind of pop out at me as being like, well, I guess maybe evidence that this was written in 3 days.
Sure.
Where like some things just do not hold up to like maybe a little bit of thought. Like,
Yeah,
for
I have one of
example-
those, Jeremy. I have one of
For
those. So we'll
example-
see if you say what I realized today.
Don't worry, I have like there's plenty, and I can pepper it in. But the thing that sticks out to me the most, the thing I even wondered like the first time watching this movie is like, is it really that easy to either forget you're not wearing pants, or to not realize the person you're talking to isn't wearing pants? Because like, if I walk into a room with somebody, well, first of all, like, is that like a neurotypical thing? Like, you can just be like, oh yeah, I'm just assuming pants until proven otherwise? Or like, because I can feel every single thing touching me all the time. Just from the moment I wake up to the moment I go to sleep. Is that just not how it is?
No, Jared, I can
others?
promise you, as a person who is neurotypical and has also done almost every drug on the planet, I have always known whether or not I was wearing pants at any given time. So you are not alone in that criticism.
Okay.
I think
I'm-
I want to put forward the theory that Dana was just drunk the whole movie.
I don't
'Cause
know.
I've
never
definitely been
drunk enough
there
to
where
forget I'm
I've
not
been
wearing
there
pants.
where I'm aware that I'm not in pants, but I'm like, you know what? You're just gonna have to deal with it.
But what if
But
what if the
then-
person walks into your house though? Because I've definitely
Yeah,
walked
the person who-
downstairs and I wasn't wearing pants, and then like a relative was there, and I was like, oh yeah, whoops.
But also, like, Chris
And he
Hemsworth
wasn't her
just
house.
walks into the room and he doesn't notice for like 5 whole minutes that he's talking to a lady wearing no pants.
I don't know
Now,
that he didn't
generally,
notice. He did not
he-
correct it.
He didn't correct it. Maybe just at a certain point he felt really weird about it. It's like, you're not wearing pants. This really isn't cool of me. But if he felt that way about it, she wasn't wearing pants that whole time. Was
It's
it
true.
cool of him to be there right up until minute 5? You know?
I mean, they're college kids, so I mean, in college, I definitely saw stuff like that.
Also, like totally away from my joke about how every bad scene is Joss and every good scene is Drew. I do think a lot of you can see, in my opinion, maybe some of y'all disagree with me. I think you can see a lot of like Joss one-liner influence in there, and not even to the detriment sometimes, like sometimes to great effect, but like that's what really permeated throughout Marvel that people started to hate because it became the standard. Like he did it in Avengers where it was like you had these quippy one-liners that came and like scenes that were forcing them, worked in the first few, and then every writer since has tried to imitate it, and everyone's starting to be like, oh, the stupid Marvel one-liner. That's like a Joss Whedon trademark that just got beaten to death. And I think that maybe is one of those scenes where it's like, yeah, logic of the scene be damned, we're going to get a little line in here for people to chuckle at. Colin?
That's the whole movie, for the record, is built basically on that premise. I mean, if you try to take this movie too seriously, it sort of dares you to, honestly. Like, this movie's like, yeah, it's pheromone mist. Got something to say? Got something to say? Like,
They have a chem department. That makes sense.
yeah,
It makes sense.
got something to say? You think that's stupid?
How are they collecting the blood?
Yeah, what's so stupid about that? Colin, what's so
do
stupid
think
about that?
I
You got
really
something
want
to
a
say?
shirt that just because I forgot about this line. I really want a shirt that just has a trowel and then like a severed hand underneath it and just nothing else. That's
That would
all
be good. Yeah.
Because yeah, I disembody that guy with a trowel.
If it's gonna say anything, it should just say, "What have you been up to?" Like
Yeah.
a super deep cut, you know.
Me, I would just take a shirt that says "streets paved with actual street" because I say
Sure.
that like
Oh yeah.
at least once a month to people.
I think it's
See, and
barter gas. Barter gas is a
Barter
great fucking line.
I also always say, you know damn well what war.
For sure. For sure. So many good lines. I didn't get to say it either, but I do want the world to know that I'm drinking Belching Peaver.
Nice.
And this is their Deftones tribute beer called Phantom Bride. Because
Sick.
there's almost certainly one of those in
for
the
sure.
menagerie.
Of the
Yeah, they
six-
got at least one.
Right. I mean, we definitely
Probably have a
saw.
rotation.
By the way, I'm bummed that we didn't see Giant Cat coming in and just being a giant cat. Because there would be few scarier creatures on the face of the planet. Not only are they killing machines, but they're actually psychopaths. And they just most of the time you have no idea. Like sometimes my cat loves me, and sometimes she hates me and wants to murder me. And I have no idea what changes those winds for her, but something certainly does. And I, just like a weatherman trying to read actual wind, completely incapable of ever being right.
I would like to level my first question, and it's a bit of maybe a heady one, but we're going to start with you, Rae. And I just want to know from everyone two things. One, is this a classic? Like, can we start to say that with our chests? And if so, why? And two, I really love kind of to use this as a launching point of let's like talking about cult classics and that weird phenomenon that we all recognize a lot of them. Some maybe we disagree on some and say that's not really a cult classic, but some of them are fantastic, like are filmed super well, and some of them are just fun. And it's this cool phenomenon that happens, especially in horror, that there's this wide spectrum of films that you can find that you're like, yeah, those are cult classics. And as people who write in the genre, I just love to hear any theories you've ever posited on what makes that kind of thing happen. And is Cabin in the Woods one of them? Rae.
For me, it's a cult classic. And I think what makes something a cult classic, I'm going to reference something that I've heard Sadie Hartman, Mother Horror, talk about, is the distinction between hype and buzz. Like, you can hype up a movie all day, big marketing budget, everybody knows it's coming out, blah, blah, blah. That's fabricated, right, through money. Buzz, when something starts to generate organic conversations among fans of the genre, that is something else. And I think that Cabin in the Woods has been really successful at generating that buzz for apparently 14 years now, which was incredibly distressing for you to point out, Travis. Thank you so much for that crisis. But truly, I said before, I'm not a huge fan of horror comedy. This is one of very few that I've seen that's successful in having both moments that are truly very funny. One that we haven't mentioned yet, one of the best cut to title scenes I've ever seen. When they're talking about, so anyway, I'm going to start in the kitchen cabinets, and then it's boom, Cabin in the Woods. That is so much fun. So it's successful at having truly funny moments and truly scary moments, in my opinion. I do think like the Buckner family, that's very scary. And I would be remiss if I did not bring up The Husband's Bulge, which, if that is not a cult classic line to put into a movie, I don't know what is. So for me, yes.
Lots of t-shirt potential from Cabin in the Woods. Yeah. But I don't know if we necessarily want to be the people to bring the world The Husband's Bulge shirt, or if that's someone else's arena, Yeah. I agree with you though, Rae. First of all, I bring up that opening all the time as my hardest defense for a cold open ending or a beginning, because there's a lot of criticism for those, especially when you do it in writing. If you just start mid conversation, people are like, who's even talking, blah, 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 blah. But I fucking love the cold open, especially in horror, especially when it serves the purpose that sort of this whole B story of this entire film serves, which is to show you like, hey, horrible people doing horrible things look just like people and act just like people. I love that. That's my favorite fact that one of you read about the nuclear power plant. But I mean, that's totally true. Like, if you worked at this place, it would become normal to you. It would be normalized. And there's like a deeper horror in that is not prevalent in plenty of horror films that are taking themselves completely seriously. And I think that's like what good satire does. I agree with you too, Rae. Horror comedy, not usually my vibe. Because I think it's pretty hard to not just become comedy, right? Even Scream has a lot of moments of genuine horror, but I would still consider it more of a comedy than anything. Whereas Cabin in the Woods, I think it's pretty firmly dual genre, which is pretty rare. And that's because, again, it's not like a horror comedy, it's a satire. I think it has that deeper level of thematic relevance and like where it is taking it, it's not taking itself seriously, but it's taking the message and the story seriously, which I think is really important. And as long as you have that balance, then you can, poke fun at yourself a little bit and have fun with that. And I think they get away with it because they humanize those characters so much. So for them to be buffoons makes sense, you know, and for them to just allow like petty intercompartmental politics to influence like people living and dying, the entire fucking planet is at risk by interdepartmental corporate office politics. Like, you never know what kind of major decisions are getting made, like in all seriousness, by people that are just going through some petty bullshit, you know? And I think that's the real horror in this movie. It's not the Buckner family, but they provide that like horror meat that you need to deliver on the promise of the premise that this movie badly advertised in a lot of ways, I think. So I think, and you're right, like it's definitely a classic because now we're old as fuck, and it's just successful enough that it's hard to argue that it's not like a cult classic. It's like in the same category as Boondock Saints, you know. It's like, I don't know how Boondock Saints did in the box office, but I didn't hear about it till like 3 years after it came out. When, like you said, Ray, that organic buzz, I love that distinction because that's how like that movie got big. It was like everybody on the street was talking about it, even though it didn't like have a ton of promotion or do well in the box office. And I think Cabin in the Woods was the same way. It arguably even more because it was actively marketed badly. Like it was so deceptive, the marketing. I didn't go to it in the theater for the opposite reason. I was like, that's not the movie I was interested in. I wasn't interested in Night of the Living Dead again. You know, I was like, I'm good. I will just, or Evil Dead is what I meant. I didn't need Evil Dead again. I was like, whatever, don't need it. But then I saw the actual movie. I was like, holy fuck, this is the best movie of all time. Like, how did I think this was not going to be awesome? So yeah, that's my answer. Cult classic for sure.
Oh, yeah. And, you know, I think I do have to agree. Classic, definitely. Cult classic, probably even more so. Because I think the thing that makes a cult classic into what it is, you know, two criteria. First, it has to fail. It has to fail hard. It kind of has to be forgotten about so that people can then discover it so that it can like succeed and have this crazy second life after the box office. You get that with this, and Boondock Saints absolutely spanks, you know. Boondock Saints 2, All Saints Day, probably just a failure.
Boondock Saints, by the way, was a bomb, like 0.1 of its budget.
Yeah. 0 people saw it, with the exception of like my dad.
Yeah, right. That's how it was. We all had one person in our life who was like, watch Boondock Saints. And thank you.
Yeah.
Thank that person next time you see him.
Yeah, that was my dad. The same way he got me to watch Blade while my mother was away on a business trip when I was frankly too young to be watching that.
Sure.
And it ruled. But that's what you need. You need the failure. You need somebody to discover it. You need them to be hyped enough to just bring that to people. And that's where things like Speed Racer and like what am I thinking of right now? Lost it. It's gone. Don't even worry about it. Don't even trip. But that's where things like that live. And that's the only place they can live.
Yeah.
It's this magical thing. Because, you know, that's how you know who's cool and who's not. It's who's seen Cannibal the Musical. You know?
Also just a failure, but it shouldn't be. It should
just
be
straight up a failure.
Not many people, you'd be surprised, know about Cannibal the Musical. I mean, they should.
Why would I not be surprised?
Yeah, I don't know.
Travis. Yeah, Colin.
Yeah, I think timing is like hugely important. It's all about timing.
As indicated by you just now.
Yeah, all about it. So it's just the right time in the right place.
Yeah.
Can't predict it.
Well, I have many a more question, but we're going to take a 5-minute break for our bladders, for your bladders, for whatever you might need. So come back in 5 minutes. Everybody will still be here, I hope, and we'll have questions for you galore. Thank you, and we'll be back.
Hello, Fermented folks. Welcome to another episode of Fermented Fiction, the first of our new season, and I believe it's season 4. The show where we drink beer and argue with each other and bring on really awesome creative guests.
If you'll permit me to go a little bit outside the box. Once upon a time, apparently, people used to sniff mummy remains, powdered mummy remains like cocaine. So I think 3 lines of powdered mummy remains, if you can get to that as well. Yeah, that'll get you right to really enjoy the movie, you know.
Dave told us all about making a mead, and I talk shit about Tom Bombadil, as I am wont to do whenever people bring up Lord of the Rings.
You would. You should.
And then that's
everybody
exactly what he
freaking
made.
chill about Tom Bombadil, or I'll get unreasonably upset.
So, in your assessment, what did you think of the everyone kind of paired off, or at least a number of people did, romantically? How'd you feel about that? Did that seem really forced and dumb to you, or?
Tom Bombadil is a merry old fellow with his bright blue jacket and his boots are yellow. Right?
It's our yellow.
Right.
Imagine discovering mummy remains and oh my god, these ancient figures. Dude, what if we crushed this and snorted it, yo? I bet we'd get fucked up.
Let's talk for a moment about the fucking all-star cast in this movie. We have Ewan McGregor slaughtering it the entire time, main character energy, top to bottom. You can't argue with it. Women want him, men want him, everybody wants Ewan McGregor. Okay? If you don't agree with that, you're lying to yourself.
Apparently she had a backstory, but they cut it because she's very hard-nosed at the beginning. And then I will say another pro of this movie is their chemistry is hot. And I feel like if they didn't have that chemistry, I would have been ugh. Because she says at one point, she's oh, it's the apocalypse. What are we going to do? Fuck. And he's and then later when they are kissing, if they didn't have chemistry and if it was 2 lesser actors, I think it would have been an eye roll, felt cheesy, but you feel their bond.
The Langoliers themselves were originally going to be portrayed by puppets. And I think maybe they should have. Maybe they should have.
Dude, that's amazing.
There's no maybe about that.
And I wish that I could say that there was something greater happening here than the war diary of a broken man living as sort of this White Tower academic with all of his friends sitting inside the Eagle and Child drinking beer and pretending Magic Lion Jesus isn't really silly. Because, it is. If we can just all be very honest with each other.
The Lord's work out there. Good job.
I like to think that I am. Most people aren't big enough, but I am. I'm willing to step up. You know?
Yeah. Dedicate that time.
Settle
You're willing to dedicate that time.
The time, the money, all of it.
That was so painful. It's one of those painful things
that
I've
was
done in my
so
life.
That was so good. We've never been so savagely attacked by any author on their show. It's incredible. So it begins.
Welcome back, Fermented folks. Thank you for bearing with our 5-minute break, and just want to jump right back in. Hopefully Colin makes his way back with another sort of opinion question on genre type things, because you all have mentioned a few times that this movie is a horror comedy that does it very well, blends them well. I think one of the reasons for that is that the 2 settings are pretty unique. Comedy comes in the whole thing, but the office setting is almost purely comedy. with like a little undertone of this dark drama going on. And then the college kids at a certain point just becomes a straight up horror film. And I think this movie sets that up with its setting super well. But on the level of like horror comedy maybe not working all the time, horror I think has a fantastic ability to genre blend more than a lot of genres, and kind of implement wilder ones. So like dramas can have sci-fi, dramas can have anything, but they kind of just become drama and they have to stay in that lane. Whereas I think horror can like pull in wild ideas from all different, cherry pick different types of things. And I just love to know from all y'all, what do you think some of those best combos are? Like if you're building your Magic the Gathering deck and you get to use all 4 colors, what is the best horror genre mashup that you've maybe seen, or one that you think just works really well, that they're meant to be married?
I'll jump in. My favorite is horror romance / horror and eroticism. And I think like especially gothic horror does this really well. Like I'm thinking of Crimson Peak. Basically anything that can make me root for like a brother and sister as a couple. Like you're pulling off some magic if you can get that done. You know what I mean? I think both rely on building tension. So it's really interesting to see how different pieces of media that are blending the two can kind of weave those two tension trajectories together, for better or worse. And I'm not a huge straight up romance fan, but I think what I like about horror romance is we're not guaranteed that happily ever after. And I like that element of like not knowing, like, is this going to go really, really bad? We're going to find out together. So that's my favorite mashup.
Can I, before you jump in, Clay, can I expand on that, Rae? Because I've found I'm kind of the way you are with horror comedy, with horror romance, where I'm like, I've seen some really great ones, but usually I hate it. And I usually love horror comedy. But I think the reason I do is because sometimes I feel like the timing with lingering on the romance is really tricky, where it's like, I'm scared, I'm involved, you're right, the tension's racked up. But if you stick too long with this emotional moment, I'm starting to be like, all right, Hallmark, like wrap it up and kill someone. Like I'm ready. Like, I don't know. Can you maybe point me to an example other than Crimson Peak that you've seen do that really well, and maybe talk about if I'm right on that tricky timing or not?
Gosh, you're putting me on the spot, and my memory always blanks when that happens. But I will say it's sort of I don't know how horror, but I think The Nightmare Before Christmas does a really good job of sort of blending horror elements and romance elements. If I was better prepared, I would have better examples for you. But I think you're absolutely right in that it's easy to not pull it off. In the same way that I think it's easy to not pull off a horror comedy or, you know, any sort of mashup. I think that's an added challenge because you're basically adding a whole other set of viewer reader expectations to a storyline. So you're like doubly complicating it for yourself, and you have to be that much better of a writer to pull it off. So totally agree that there are some examples that fall short, but I think it's, again, especially in the Gothic, I think that's where they do it the best, is in the Gothic, because it's that slow creeping dread. It's very atmospheric. Mexican Gothic, the book, does a really good job of this. House of Hunger, I think, does a really good job of this. And the Gothic also really lends itself to that sexuality and eroticism. And to me, blending eroticism with the grotesque is always gonna hit. Like, that's for me, you know? That's for the girls, I think.
Person.
Like, give me a moldy old castle that everybody's horny in, you know? I'm here for it.
I love it. Boy.
Yeah, I would say like even Eggers' Nosferatu was pretty horror romance, I would say. Super dark end of the spectrum, and I was really liking The Secret Life of Addie LaRue, but then that's what it's called, right? Secret Life? Yes, because I used to call it the wrong
The
one.
Invisible Life.
Invisible, damn it. It was wrong. Again.
We're
But
so
anyway,
close.
I really loved the first half of that when I felt like it was living more in the horror, and then it kind of went full romance at the end. So it lost me a little bit with the crossover. But like, it is hard to walk those balances. But I do think eroticism and horror is probably the most powerful combo. Like, it is going to appeal to a lot of people, and like, I am not a romance reader, but I will fully admit to a complete vulnerability to it. It definitely can critical hit me, just like it can everybody else. If you sneak some romance into my horror and you do it really seamlessly, I'm like definitely waiting for like the next romance scene, you know, and I will find that that's what I'm reading for. And it's a weird experience. Shout out Rebecca Rowland. Her book is doing this to me at this very moment. Really enjoying it. And she's just really good at like weaving it in there so that it's like it's like written like a B story, but in your brain it kind of takes control. So I think horror and romance are a powerful combo. My favorite is definitely horror fantasy, because those are the two genres I love most, and when they meet, it's amazing. But there's really only a few examples, because again, that balance especially is hard to walk. If you have enough fantasy, you just become fantasy. I think so. But there's a collection that George Martin put out a few years ago. I think it was called Dangerous Women. I don't know if anyone's familiar. It was really good. He edited it, and it's got stories from all kinds of authors. But the story that really stuck with me was about this tavern in the middle of a haunted forest. And so like people would come there to hide out and stuff. And then they were also bounty hunters. So they would just go out, and whenever the forest killed these people, collect all their shit and turn them in for their bounties. And that's like how they made their living. It was a great story, super creepy, super dark. And I can't remember what it was called, but it's in Dangerous Women, which is a great collection just overall. So I would say that's my recommendation.
Jeremy?
Now, first of all, I do want to say Clay gets really excited partway through books that he's reading. So do wait for the full, like wait until he's finished it to get his full review of it. He gets real excited early on. This is something he does.
It's true. I have finished Dangerous Women, for the record.
Oh, thank
Still
God.
standing by it.
Yeah. Okay. That's good. The second thing, I will address something that Rae has said, and I will say that frankly, the thing that turned me off of the Shadowhunters TV series that I watched with the wonderful woman who would become my beautiful wife, the thing that turned me off of that was that it was almost always about blood relatives wanting to bone each other. Like, for so way more than you would think. The premise isn't even about that. And yet, so much of the story revolves around that I'm like, okay, can we just, everybody calm down, okay?
Jeremy's not here for it.
I'm really not. I'm surprised that show had as many seasons as it did. It's insane. But anyway.
Okay.
Back
So
to the
you
question
wouldn't
part
recommend
of the
that?
question. I mean, unless blood relatives wanting to bone for just the whole series,
Sure.
unless that's your jam, could be. I'm not here to yuck on your yums or anything like that. You do you.
Yeah. It's not
And-
necessarily the thing that anyone needs to take the firmest stance on, that's for sure.
Yeah, I guess.
We would also recommend Game of Thrones and Dexter and a host of other wonderful shows that include those themes as well. Yeah.
Why not?
So,
And
Jeremy, what's your most powerful combo?
And history before 1800.
Right.
True.
And don't forget House of the Dragon, which has most of the internet rooting for an uncle and niece to really make it.
They
Yeah,
sure
when are they
are.
gonna pork down already? You know?
Well, they've been doing it, Jeremy.
they-
Okay,
yeah,
when are they
sometimes-
going to keep doing that? When are they
They
going to
got
do it again?
kids.
Next episode, I hope.
They've been porking a lot.
Good.
So, yeah, you don't
My
have to worry
favorite
about that.
one.
For another one that's like so
Oh, God.
obvious is just Sherlock Holmes in anything. Like virtually every crime show there's a Sherlock Holmes character. Virtually every crime or thriller or mystery or like House is right. House equals Holmes equals drug addicted physician who's solving mysteries, right? And and there's just a million of them, and they're like there's like the Mentalist and
I'm sorry, Colin. I have to ask: are you positing at this moment that there is as much Sherlock Holmes in popular media as there is sex? Is this your
Sex
claim,
with
sir?
blood
I
relative.
refute that claim. Oh, sex with blood relatives specifically.
That I think you could make
Okay.
that you
I
could-
still think you're wrong, but I do see
really,
you're right.
like I was going
No,
to try
like,
and answer a
it's
question, but where are you going?
I don't know.
It's the powerful combo, right? I mean, you have a
Mystery
main
and
character
horror.
who's drug addicted. Just make the main character drug addicted. That's their weakness. Boom. Superman and Kryptonite, drug addicted,
That is
basically,
scary.
in a way.
Scary.
Right? I mean, it just happens all the time, and it works. People just forget that it's the same thing over and over again.
Jeremy,
What do you think about that, Ray?
I'm wondering if wanting to bang your brother is not just another form of being addicted. You know what I'm saying?
I do know what you're saying.
So now every character is Sherlock Holmes. Boom.
Boom.
Oh God, Colin, you have like C.S. Humble is not happy with you.
I
Holmes was
constantly
not
anger.
addicted to
Yes.
drugs. He was, self-medicating his undiagnosed, probably ADHD and other things with, just really hard drugs. I'm with you. I got you, man. As much as we'll probably come to blows in the future over the various things I've said about Tom Bombadil.
Yeah.
if you ever run into CS Humble in person, y'all are meeting at high noon. Like
I would hope.
it's happening.
it's happening.
Guys, dude,
And
CS Humble
I'm
is
sure-
in the YouTube comments right
Yeah,
now.
Of course,
Yeah.
He is. He's
in the
flipping
Gunpowder
out,
Guild.
man.
Of
That's
course,
what
here.
Jeremy. Yep.
Yeah.
I will say, I have an answer. Jeremy, you can answer if you want after my answer, but we've gone all over the place. I think science
this is-
fiction is the most seamless combo. Like, space is just scary as hell already. And then
Yeah.
like I have behind me, you probably can't see. I have, oh yeah, you can. This little book with the pink and blue cover, that's Leviathan Wakes by James S.A. Corey. Those books are like half horror because the little like entity that's in the spaceship is terrifying as hell. It's like a zombie book, but it's pitched as a sci-fi novel. And I didn't expect it. I got like 7 chapters in and was like, oh, this is like scary as hell. Like, what's going on? And I'm almost convinced that most deep space sci-fi movies I watch are just horror films that are
I was literally going to say that.
correctly. Because I'm like, even Gravity is pretty terrifying at certain points. Like, that's freaking scary to be almost lost in space.
It's like being at sea or being on top of Mount Everest. Like, you get to these environments where it's like, we actually can't survive without a fuck ton of equipment.
Yeah.
And if any of it fails, we're done. Because we are way too squishy to be here. So like space has inherently got all those horror elements. I totally agree with that.
So let me ask you this. Are space movies the same as Lost at Sea movies?
I do think they essentially are, honestly.
Yeah, kind of.
And are both the same as Trapped Underground movies?
That I think is
No.
different because I think the terror is a different type of terror. Claustrophobia is different than like the vastness of like, you can't. Claustrophobia is I have the tools necessary, like my body can't function. Whereas like Lost
But
in
isn't all of it that?
Lost in
I
Space
won't
is
be
like-
Yeah.
able to breathe?
I think Lost in Space is more like I can do everything that my mechanisms work, but they're not enough. Whereas like claustrophobic trapped in a box is like I literally can't move. You know.
Yeah, I do agree with Ray though, to a point as well. Like, if your entire environment is hostile to you, which is what a vastness movie does just as much as a claustrophobic movie, you're kind of looking at it through a different lens, but it's the same kind of fear. It's the same kind of like, it's isolation horror. It's, I have lost control. I am no longer like, I am on the food chain now, you know, like the world will devour me if I slip up. And I think that's just as present with vastness or claustrophobia.
Yeah,
so
like
both.
I just watched that movie with Woody Harrelson. I can't remember. It was it's about the guy that, like, the true story about the guy that
Last Breath,
who like got detached from his pod. He was an underground pipeline welder.
Yeah.
And the pod like detached from him, and he was under there for like 25 minutes with no oxygen. That movie's freaking terrifying at certain points because I'm just like, and then he lived and he's fine. And I'm like, that's not right.
Can I propose we do a separate episode where the theory is just all horror movies are the same ? And then we can just argue on both sides.
I love that. Yeah.
We could do that.
Sold. I'm in. But I am going to also say that there is definitely a distinct difference between like deep space and being buried like in the claustrophobic underground type thing. Because, you know, when you're in deep space, you are safe in the ship for the most part. You know, you can live, you can survive. As long as you're not going outside, you're going to be fine. Basically, whereas like if you are trapped underground, that is the dangerous environment. You're not going to survive there. You have to get out of there to someplace that isn't going to run out of air or kill you. Where like in a sci-fi setting, like you don't automatically have that if you just write a line about like, oh yes, the photosynthesizers and the oxygen apparatus are fully functional. Yes.
It's important to get those lines in there.
I do think they both have a similarity that I'll ask after. I believe Colin has a question and maybe bring us back to Cabin in the Woods.
Yeah, because we are way the fuck out in space.
Yeah. I could reply to Jeremy, but I'm not even going to bother.
Cabin in the Woods is, by the way, I always argue, sci-fi horror at its heart.
Yeah.
So on this latest viewing, my question for the Cabin in the Wood experts is like in the film, so this facility is at one location. It's not in different places. Like there are different places in other parts of the world, but like they have to get people to this location in order to kill them with horror stuff that they select.
Yes.
And so I guess I was baffled. Like at some point they say like, oh, you know, who was it? Chris Hemsworth, Kurt. Like they're like, oh yeah, he doesn't even know so-and-so. And talking about his cousins who bought the cabin that they're going to.
Oh yeah.
And when that line was brought up by the people in the office, in the facility, I was like, wait a minute, why are they going? What? Like, why are they going to this cabin that does he even know his cousins? I don't understand. I don't understand what took them to that place now.
Yeah, and they also say in the film, I don't even think he has a cousin towards the end. So I have a similar challenge with it. Also, I'd like to know, is Mordecai getting paid like a full year's salary for his 5 minutes of being a creep at the gas station? How is this sustainable for Mordecai? Like,
maybe it's like a
cabin there.
I have two theories. I have a theory for both of those. My theory for Hemsworth is either he was brainwashed or he was the kind of idiot I am who watched Friday the 13th and recognized that it's a movie about a serial killer, but some weird part of my brain was like, I really want to go to summer camp now.
Yeah.
That looks fun until the point when everyone dies. Theory on the second one is that Mordecai kind of gets the perk pay, you know, like
Sure.
a lot of farmers get. Like their salaries may be technically pretty low, but they're getting free rent, they're getting, you know, free gas, they don't have to pay any utility bills, and they don't have to pay for food. They're getting their groceries. So he's just like, they're like, we'll give you like 15,000 a year, but you get to live at this gas station in the middle of the woods, and you can fill up your pickup for free, and you can eat whatever supplies we put in there. And I would take that deal, you know?
Yeah. Or he's a freelancer.
Could be, you know, gig
You know,
work,
this is one
very
week, yeah,
important.
one day out of the year, you know? This
Free
is just
for
one gig
hire.
for old yeah, for old Mordecai. Yeah, exactly.
Oh
Jeremy?
yeah, you'll want that. And you know, I think this is one of those things about this movie that doesn't really hold up on a rewatch, which is you do wonder, like was Kurt in on it, or was he inceptioned? I could see both being realistic, because he does have to opt in according to their regional rules. It does seem like every single region doing this has different rules. We'll get to that, but also, like, you do have to wonder who exactly is funding this organization, also how, also why. Specifically, why are you not using your seemingly unlimited resources to kill ancient gods that demand gore and titties? Like,
Fair.
you know, rather than do this whole trolley problem ass bullshit, maybe just maybe try some killing. Like,
How do you know
different
they
killing.
haven't done that?
Well, they're doing some killing. Maybe do different killing. Okay. Maybe don't make me wonder how, like, what's the scenario that they're able to monitor everyone's vitals? Like, did everyone go under for surgery and get something implant? Like, what's oh my God.
This,
You know?
this is something that I don't think people would ask this question of an anime, you know? I don't think we ask
Yes,
it
I
as
would.
much. You would not. No, you wouldn't. Not in the same way. I think if Cabin in the Woods was an anime, all this would just, people would be like, that's fine, because it's a cartoon. But because it's live action, we're asking things to be a little more realistic and suspending our disbelief slightly less. Because, like, I actually like what this movie does in that regard. I think it's very Edgar Wright does the same thing, where he's just like, yeah, I said it's a pheromone spray. Shut the fuck up. Like, let's move along. They're horny now. Okay, deal with it. Like, and the beginning was that way too. Like, there is a blatant conversation where the chem department is talking to the heads of operations, and they're like, yeah, the hair dye is working, and we got the special drugs in Marty's stash. And so they do a little nod to it to establish it canonically. And then they're like, that's not what the movie's about. You're not here to, like, we are going to do sci-fi horror, not sci-fi. Okay. If you want to know all the facts, like, this is not really the place for you. Because, like, if you try to poke plot holes in it, they're fucking everywhere. Like, I mean, are you going to tell me that you could identify those 5 archetypes in that school of little children? Like, what are we talking about here?
See,
You know?
I think there's just regional rules. Like, you sacrifice, you get one regional sacrifice in, and you're good.
Yeah, maybe as long as it's, like, I don't know, relevant to your culture or something. I don't know what the rule is. It does seem to be that kind of vibe. But regardless, like, it doesn't make any sense then. Like, then why do we have to follow rules at all? And why can't we just, like, pay a bunch of old people and be like, hey, can we throw you in a volcano, like, give you a sweet pension, like, set your family up? You know, why can't we just do, you know, like the Midsummer thing?
Also,
What do you think, Rae?
God is directly under the cabin.
Right the
under
fuck there.
He's right there. Real, My thing,
How else can you collect the blood? You know, that's
I'll
just
give
a
you
farm to table
pheromones.
situation.
You can have the pheromones. How do they get them back in their little glass boxes after this? How are they wrangling them? Go back in the box. How does that work?
I believe there's probably like a red shirts from Star Trek scenario where like the interns are the monster wranglers with like a stake out there. Like, come on.
That would have been fun to see.
That would have been great. I would love to see like a little mini episode of
Like
that.
a dog.
Come on, giant cat. Come on, giant cat.
You know?
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. It'd be like those Owlcat videos.
My like line in the sand for writing for like, okay, you forgot this in your story is like, you have an invisible wall that things explode when they hit and keeps killing birds. And
You can't put that in the office?
because a chasm isn't enough. And this guy can totally yeet a motorcycle off of it without a jump and get 40 feet up in the air.
You need to jump way further than that.
And then, but then
Yeah,
you
he's done
don't
that before.
establish a reason for why he may or may not have cousins who he completely implicitly trusts, even though he possibly doesn't even have them, to take all of his friends out of college for their spring break trip or whatever to go like screw around with and have fun in the middle of nowhere with. Like, that's a pretty low bar of a rationale for our plot to take place. Like, I'll grant you the invisible wall if you give me a more established reason why this guy goes to his cousins who don't exist for a, like, did we get brainwashed? Like, maybe we can just talk a little bit about how this gets done a little bit more.
You did not grow up in central Montana, brother. If someone was like, you want to go to the woods instead of be in Cut Bank, I would be like, absolutely. And I
mean,
wouldn't
yeah,
ask any
kinda.
questions. I'd be like, oh,
Yeah.
you got an RV? Let's go. That sounds better than what I was going to do.
I mean, it
All
seems
right.
like they're going to college in San Francisco.
Why not?
I mean, it's a nice town that they're in. It's not middle of nowhere.
I just
The starting
realized this right now, but also, are you going to tell me you are blowing this tunnel every single year? You would spend the entire rest of the year trying to reconstruct this tunnel. What is the structural integrity of this mountain at this point? How many years have you been blowing this tunnel and rebuilding it? What are you
Right.
talking about?
Just have a trap
I
door
mean,
of rocks at this point.
yeah.
Like,
just-
figure
Yeah,
it
like
out.
just lower a door.
Minimum
just
wage
use your
is a lot
electric
lower.
fence technology. What are you
Yeah.
doing blowing the tunnel?
I want
You
to
don't have holograms? Do some holograms, man.
Why can't the force field go through a tunnel?
I want to
What the hell are
propose.
we talking
yeah.
about?
Hand raised. Want to propose. This is a government entity. Okay.
Sure,
We all know how the government spends money and hires people. Okay.
true.
So I think my red shirt theory fixes everything. They're literally just doing shit to employ like what's his name in IT's cousin.
Sure.
They're like, this guy needs some federal money and he needs health insurance. So we're gonna blow up this tunnel just so he can like go dig it out every single year. I think that fixes all logical problems of there's just a bunch of red shirts in the background wrangling monsters, digging tunnels, making sure Mordecai doesn't get bored. Like, someone is literally hired
Sure.
to go talk to
Go play checkers with Mordecai. That's the worst
Exactly.
one. You don't want to draw that one. That's the one they give to the first years.
Yeah. Now, do you think it solves the issue of, watching this and wondering what exactly is the advantage of being able to purge the monster containment elevators? Just
Bro.
letting them all in there?
I mean,
Why
yeah.
Like, if some
Button.
shit's going down, maybe just
Why-
leave them.
Why
At
is
least
that a
make-
button? Just let everything out. They just have that as a button. That
That's the
seems
worst.
like a really
not
bad
like-
idea.
Two
Not
keys,
even like a
you
secure
know, that's-
button. It's
You
just
can't set off a
there.
nuke without two keys that are at least 10 feet apart. Like,
I
there's
was
a
just gonna
reason for
say,
that.
yeah, like if you got to set off a nuke, you need to have the 2-key system. At least make it a lever,
Yeah,
because like even if people are like there, working there, people are going to hesitate to pull a lever. We don't push levers every day. We push buttons every day. We turn knobs every day, but we don't pull like big ass heavy levers. If you make it a big heavy lever, like people are like, I don't think I'm qualified to touch that.
Like,
I don't know who
put in
is,
a
but it ain't me.
passcode or something. Someone can fall on a lever no matter how heavy it is.
Whereas a
Like-
button is the most tempting thing. No child has walked by a fire alarm and thought,
Yeah, if I worked there, I would for sure hit
Which
that
I guess
button
is a lever.
eventually.
Also,
That's
there's
also
fire
a
alarm
lever,
levers, and
yeah.
it doesn't stop people. I'm wrong. My whole theory just went out the window. How did I
Right
sleep
out
on fire
there.
alarms?
I want to ask another question on writing things, because I think it does relate to this, and gonna feel that you first, Rae, of like, I've asked this before, so listeners, longtime listeners, be warned, sometimes I repeat questions, but I like to get varying different opinions, and one of those is suspension of disbelief, and like where, hopefully I haven't asked you before, because I don't write down who I ask what question, so but suspension of disbelief, I think, is a hard, tricky wire to walk. We've talked about it before, about how it has a lot to do with, does it fit within the world? Does it fit within the structure that we're kind of asked to believe in? Do you agree with that? Is there kind of a way you think it should be approached, and what do you see as being acceptable amounts of, okay, you can suspend disbelief for this moment?
I think it's super dependent on genre. I think there's a lot of genre expectations to grapple with. And let me say, for the record, these plot holes do not impede my enjoyment of this movie. Like, I don't think it rise to a level where they impact how fun the movie is. But I will say it chafes against me a bit with this one specifically, because I think that the point of the movie is to try to be like, look how clever and smart we noticed all these things. Aren't we so smart? It's a little self-congratulatory, and I don't think you can have both. I don't know that you can have major plot hole, and so many of them, and have that sort of like highbrow, I'm smarter than all the other horror movie writers tone that they take. So that's sort of where I think that there's a mismatch here. But I'm not a huge stickler for like, oh, well, that didn't make sense, so that movie sucked. Like, I'm really not one of those. But I do think, like, pick a struggle, right? You're either smarter than everybody else, and if that's the case, be smarter than me, right? Like, make something that I can't poke holes in, or don't do that, and we won't have to criticize you on youtube.com.
I'm sorry to do this to you again, Clay, but I want to expand one more time, Rae, on your answer of how much do you think it has to do with, and I'm just gonna call out our mom live on this podcast. Our mom is like a stickler for little details, like anything tiny. So I've had arguments with her about a show.
That log would be wet. It just rained.
It just rained. That log would be wet.
And then
like
she's out of the movie.
The way that like a crop is cut. Like, if it doesn't fit how a crop is actually cut, it doesn't work.
Movie sucks
for her. So I'm just like curious, as a writer, when you're kind of paying attention to those things, and maybe as an audience member and a fan yourself, like, do you think there is a major difference in suspension of disbelief between the little tiny details and then the big, like, that definitely wouldn't happen, but whatever, I'm willing to look past it?
Yeah, and actually, I think it's really funny that you bring up those examples from your mom, because what I see people gripe about most online in terms of suspension of disbelief is always a little detail. It's never the bigger world issue, or, you know what I mean? Like, that the science didn't make sense. It's always like this tiny, like, they didn't have those saddles that year. You know what I mean?
Yeah, totally.
It's like this. So I think it's so dependent on the person and like what you're knowledgeable about. Like, I read a portion of a book once, and it was a scene where the person was riding a horse, and I competitively rode horses growing up, and I'm reading it and I'm just like, absolutely the fuck not. And like that was it. Like I was out of the book. But like somebody who didn't have all that experience with horses probably wouldn't give a shit, right? But like because I do, I'm like, that's it. This is where our journey ends. You don't know anything about horses. I don't think you've ever even seen a horse in real life, and I'm out. So I think it's people's own little petty grievances, which I personally love. I love a petty grievance, and I love it in other people.
Rae supports all petty grievances. No, I do think there's certainly an important balance to walk. And I do think comedy gives you a little bit of extra grace in ridiculousness. It's kind of like writing in the weird or something. Like you get to do whatever the fuck you want as long as your story, your in-world stuff is consistent and glues it all together. To me, that's what's important. Like Rick and Morty and Hitchhiker's Guide are two great examples of this, as is Cabin in the Woods. Like there's some ridiculous ass shit in this show, no question, all throughout it, all the way through. You could poke a million holes in this thing. It is downright porous in terms of like plot and theme. Like, yeah, but it all like makes sense in the world, and the characters are believable enough and consistent enough. And I think that all the other story devices are consistent enough that it doesn't really matter. And that's really the balance you're trying to walk, is you're trying to get people to accept whatever level of absurdity you're proposing, because speculative fiction is sort of absurd by nature. You know, like by the time we're adding in speculative elements, they're called that for a reason. Like you don't just believe them sight unseen. It doesn't matter how many of your friends show you a ghost video or whatever, you'll be like, sure, whatever, dude. And then you're going to have to see the ghost for yourself. A lot of people, you know, that's still how I feel. I know so many people who I really trust who believe in ghosts wholeheartedly. And I'm still like, totally. Yeah. Like, show me a ghost and we'll have another conversation. So I think there's a lot of levels to it. And I do think Cabin in the Woods walks it pretty well. But I do have to agree with you, Rae. There is a level of that to all of Joss Whedon's work, where you can definitely tell his ego is infused in his work. Like he's very egotistical. And I love his stuff. Growing up, I was a huge fan of all the stuff, you know? So I still do, you know, you got to separate the artist from the art at some point, but also fuck that guy. It's all a whole thing. But like, ultimately I see that in there. So I guess that's part of it too.
Jeremy?
Yeah, you know.
Sorry, that was a bummer.
I mean, yeah. Hey, no, it's fine. It has to be said. You know, we should just get it out of the way. Joss Whedon, as a guy, can suck my butt.
I'm working through it live on air, pal. Live on air.
Yeah, we're working through this. There's a lot of feelings. Okay,
like I thought you couldn't take.
He's a good writer, and he can suck my butt. You know. It's both. It can be both. And yes,
he
also
took this guy from me, Jeremy.
Hey,
he
can't take this guy from you.
He did. He took it.
Did. But anyway, to Clay's other point, you know, I feel like comedy and horror are the genres that basically let you do whatever. Like you can get the most over the top with people still being able to buy it, because that's what you're there for. And like the line of the whole suspension of disbelief, that varies. You know, generally, if something is enjoyable, plot holes can be forgiven, depending on like whatever your background is. You know, you criticize small details when the plot doesn't hook you, except in cases where you just know too much. Like, I almost can't watch movies that feature people cooking professionally, because no, I can't. I know too much.
That's like a favorite genre right now too. The Bear, The Menu, like it's a bunch of people love cooking right now.
They do love it. Hey, they've loved it the whole time, and writers love it too, because they always, what they do right? They have this crazy eccentric character whose flaws you're supposed to forgive because their food is so good. Because the chef, they're actually the writer. Forgive their weirdness because they're so great.
Because their
everybody
product is so good.
Yeah.
Ray,
but
you ask people to forgive you because your products are so good.
I just wanted to expand on the point Clay was making, and you kind of mentioned it too, Jeremy. I think depending on genre, I think the requirement of the writer is you must give the people what they want, right? So if you give the people what they want in the genre, they are willing to forgive a lot, including suspending disbelief, sometimes poor writing quality, potentially historical inaccuracies, but not in the historical genre, right? Like if you're in the Western genre, get the horse shit right. You know what I mean? Like, and they better be galloping because that's what the people want. If it's a horror comedy, it better be funny and it better have moments that are horrifying. Cabin in the Woods does that. So you can forgive the other stuff. If it's a romance, there better be romantic tension. There should be banter. Like, I think as long as a piece of media hits its genre expectations, much can be forgiven. I think when we start to see people really dislike something, and maybe they bring up suspension of disbelief as one of the gripes, but I think they would not be doing that if the media was giving the people what they want in that genre. Like science fiction, like hard science fiction, they will not forgive you for that because that is a genre expectation.
Yeah. There was a show we're going to talk about later, like near the end of this season, that I absolutely love, but I've heard a lot of people gripe about little details with, so I'm excited about that. But I think you're right, even I'm thinking about like plot twists and surprises are kind of, and I encounter this a lot in education, of like kind of the whole job of the teacher is to try and bring people to something that they don't even know they want, but it is kind of what they want. Like teenagers don't want to read. And the more you tell them like, this is a good book, the more they're like, I don't want to read it then. So you're like trying to trick them into this little trap of like making them see that they actually like it and think it's their idea. And I think that's like this beautiful thing that good writers do, is you're surprised by the plot, but after you reevaluate like what you wanted, you're like, actually what they did is better and what I wanted the whole time. And like that seems so tricky. So I don't know if you have thoughts on that.
I think you're describing a successful subversion of a trope, right? Because like the thing is there, I'm trying to think of a good example of this off the top of my head, but like say you have a Western, for example, and like maybe, you're hitting a lot of expectations. There's a gunslinger, there's, we're riding around on horses, and, it's a small town. So like we're hitting a lot of that stuff. But then, we subvert some of the tropes. Maybe there's, intelligent commentary on the racism of the time, on the sexism of the time, on some of these other things. And that's when I think a viewer or a reader will start to do exactly what you're talking about, Travis, which like, that is what I wanted, and I did not even know that I wanted that, but I think you do still have an obligation as a creator of whatever the media is to deliver on the promise of your premise. And then I think if you're really good, you get to subvert some of that stuff successfully, and then people come away feeling like they got what they wanted and, this little extra thing that they didn't know that they wanted too.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point, Ray. It basically is a successful subversion. And that's like basically satire at its purest form, I think, is like taking what you expect, those tropes and those like genre specific window dressings that we all expect to see. If you tell me this is a vampire thing, I got to see a few select things. This gives you all that, and then it literally splits the world in two to like satire it over here. It's almost like a comedy movie just like spliced onto a horror movie, and it's kind of really weird. And I don't know if there are a whole bunch of other examples of it being done that way. but it does kind of feel like both genres sort of spliced onto each other. And then they sort of infect each other as well, which is an interesting symbiotic relationship there.
I do want to clarify real quick before calling that I love the trope subversion. And I'm even talking more specifically about like moments of specific example, the end of the Jade Greenbone saga, Jade Legacy. I think Fonda Lee did something that like I had like 6 scenarios in my head about how that book would end, and she took door number 7, and I was like, oh shit, that's like the better door. like I couldn't have written that door. And I think that's just like, that's when you just hand over the, like, yeah, you're the author. I'm the reader. And like, you just checkmated me. And this was fantastic. And anyone who's read that book, I hope you agree with me, but the way one of the main protagonists like arc ends is just so beautifully unexpected. I loved it. But Colin.
Oops. My computer just crashed right at this exact moment.
Oh, we can still hear you.
Give me. Oh,
that's really
hey,
fun.
Nice.
Yeah.
Weird. Yeah.
You're
Give it a minute.
A
Don't worry.
face.
I'll have Jeremy go first.
Jeremy.
Very well. But I think it's a lot like the sort of comedic elements in this film. It subverts your expectations in a way that doesn't ruin the horror or the comedy. So you are getting what you want out of this film, whereas some other films, including some other films that we've covered recently, just sort of subvert things in a way where it's like, haha, it was I all along. And we're like, okay, well that's a whole lot dumber than what we were all expecting. So I guess you win? I don't know. For me, it's usually the most surprising when something goes like exactly the way I think it's going to, which almost never happens. Except for like, weirdly, it happens a lot with One Tree Hill. I don't know why. I say a bananas thing, and then it just happens in that show. And then they play Jimmy Eat World about it. And I'm like, okay, I was just late to the scene on this. I don't...
The amount of times I could have never predicted One Tree Hill would get mentioned as much as it does on this show, but thank you, Jeremy.
You're welcome.
Hey, we could not have
before
seen
it was
this
Gossip Girl. I don't think I've actually brought up One Tree Hill on this before.
You definitely have at least once.
At least once? Okay.
At least once, if not
That's
5
fair.
times.
My wife has me
maybe
watch a lot of stuff, and I'm here for it.
You are. You always sit in the pocket there. You always watch it. I think the reason the comedy in this works is because it never tries to tell you that it's funny. It just is when it is, and it isn't when it isn't. And I do think there are jokes that are funny to some people and not funny to others. Aplenty in there as well. So I think that's maybe the difference between satire and like comedy too, when it's in a genre mash, is like satire kind of pretends it's being serious, I think, most of the time, and comedy kind of lets you know pretty outright that it's trying to get a laugh out of you. But the comedy in Cabin in the Woods is mostly in dialogue or actual character action that is like justified by the plot and everything.
Yeah. Colin, did you still
that
have
hurts.
a point, or you're back?
Yes.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Do it.
The whatever Jeremy said, I didn't know because my computer crashed. But I think that kind of like Rae was referencing, it depends on the genre, but also like what I love about this film is the end of the film, I think, is like a bold choice for an ending, not in terms of the very last scene, but in terms of like the conversations between the characters at the end, like is pretty in depth and goes on for quite a while. And I'm totally in support of it. And I feel like if this film would not be the same and have been ruined if the main characters like didn't talk about what they should do, like talk to one another about what they're going to do and why. And it's not perfect, but it's like a bold choice. And I feel like I identified with Marty being able, like, just wanting to know, like he has to know why. And that's why he goes down the elevator. And that's why they choose to do all these things, because they want to know the truth, and they can turn away from that. But ultimately that's their choice, and it reflects on everything that happens next, and their choice of like ending the world too. And so the writing of the storyline is about their sort of logic and discussion about making that decision. And it's very absent in other stuff. Like if you watch, you know, current popular TV shows, a lot of times all the scenes are so fast that there's never time for the characters to actually have a meaningful conversation with one another.
I totally disagree, Colin. You want to argue again?
Jump in.
Do it, Rae.
Do it.
I think it's a bold
agree with
choice.
you.
I think it was the wrong choice. The ending, specifically, I mean the long conversation that the two characters have as the ground is shaking below them. Sorry, I tried to kill you. Sorry, all of that. It felt like the clearest example in the whole movie of the writers thinking they were so smart. And I think the film is hurt by it. To me, best ending would have been Sigourney Weaver immediately taking them both out, as she should, and as we know she is capable of doing. And, you know, the world doesn't end. I don't think that the character arcs justified that ending at all. I don't think it was satisfying as an audience member to just have them decide to end the world. They had families, like they had loved ones. Like these are children. Their life was great. What do you mean you just decided to, you know what I mean? Like it didn't track for me at all. And it just felt like very nose in the air writers going, we're smarter than everybody else. Horror is stupid. And one thing that I don't like is a story that pokes fun at its viewer or reader. Like we can do a little bit of that if we're laughing together. That felt like you think you're better than me at the end of this movie.
I totally have to agree with you there, Rae, actually. The one thing I don't like about Cabin in the Woods is the fucking ending. I agree with you completely. It would have been awesome if they had, because I don't mind the conversation, Colin. I hate the final decision that conversation leads to, and I agree with Rae. It's way too shallow of a pool. Like the two operators are way more developed than any of our Cabin in the Woods teens. Like they're the real main characters of this, and them choosing to end the world doesn't make any sense. Like they're both like good people. They're both nice people. Like Marty's got some conspiracy theories, but he's not like every human on the planet should die. Like that's not his character, and it's not Dana either.
They had a nice life. Like the kind of film that would need to lead up to a decision like that would be like The Road. You know what I mean? Like to be just like off the charts levels of bleak and hopeless.
But even The Road,
like good call. You know?
Yeah, y'all had 2 bad days.
Yeah.
And funnily enough, The Road ends like weirdly more hopeful.
For
like
sure.
Very messed up.
An obvious example was I had the opposite opinion of Knock at the Cabin, where they decide to end the world.
Yeah. Jeremy? Sorry,
That's what the whole story was about. You know, this movie wasn't really about that. And then it just was.
This movie was
Jeremy.
about that.
This movie was all about that. And I think on the one hand, yes, I think Rae and Clay and everybody is right. The how they get to the ending doesn't really make sense for the characters that you've put there.
Right.
But I'm thinking of that mostly physically, where Marty just out of nowhere, he can just disembowel somebody with a trowel and, prove that the novelty bong is mightier than the bear trap, as it would seem. But but apart from that, I think it's it works. Apart from that, I think it does work for the story being told, where you have like all sides of the trolley problem being represented. You have the people saying, yeah, I'll pull the lever and do the lesser of two evils, being, you know, the guy's just running this whole horror scenario like they do. And then you also have the people in the trolley problem being told, hey, we're going to run you over, and that's the best case scenario. And them justifiably being like, well, fuck you and the trolley. Maybe try derailing the trolley. Maybe don't run over anybody. You know, I think, it makes sense, and yet it doesn't. Like, I don't think these two have the physical or emotional strength to get to the point where they're like, yeah, I'm going to kill a room full of people by unleashing eldritch horrors on them. And then also, Dana might be a werewolf now.
Oh yeah, maybe.
I think she might be.
She did get bit.
She was for like a few seconds anyway, because eventually they were definitely ground zero, so they're gone.
Yeah, like I assume that's where the hand pops out of, and then they're just goo.
Poof.
Yeah.
I know we're at our 2-hour mark, but Rae, if you'll grant me one more question, I have to do my not officially a segment, but I'm forcing it to be a segment, pretentious question of the week, because I have one. And I do think it relates to Cabin in the Woods, in that I've been reading a book I really like. I've been reading too many books. I forget which one it is. It's How to Think Like Shakespeare, Lessons from a Renaissance Education, and great book, highly recommend. But it talks a lot about how writing is a conversation that's passed on through the ages, and you're like continually conversing with people who came before and the people who will come after, and what you give to the world is just part of that like ongoing dialogue. And I think Cabin in the Woods definitely builds off tropes. It builds off subverted tropes. It builds off what we're just talking about, where it maybe misses the ending of like it's talking to its audience, but it kind of seems like it's talking down to its audience at the end. But all of that relates to, it's part of this ongoing conversation of the horror genre. And I want to know from you, Rae, I'm going to put you on the spot. What do you think you've put into the conversation of the horror genre?
Me personally?
You as a writer.
That's a big swing. I think if you're really fucking good, you get to be part of the conversation. I think, we know not all writers are remembered, not all. So I think, it's only the best of literature that gets to participate in that. And I would not presume to put myself in that position. I think what I aspire to give voice to in my work is, how it feels to me to be a woman in the world. And I think that that's resonated with some readers so far. And I hope to kind of continue to expand on the portion of the conversation that I'm trying to have as I continue my career. But that is a subject that really resonates with me and sort of the area that I've fallen into and I'm very happy to be in. So I think we've had, I don't think it's news to anyone that I think most things have been male dominated, right? I think we can leave it at things. I don't know that we need to even be more specific than that. So that has shaped the world in more ways than we could even begin to count. And I think every other perspective, right? Woman, non-binary, every other perspective that I think pushes against patriarchal structures and patriarchal ways of thinking and framing story and framing characters and deciding even who is a good character and who is a bad character, right? Like all of it is inextricably linked to, you know, what did Kamala Harris say? We didn't fall out of a coconut tree, right? We exist in the context of everything that came before us. So I think if I can help speak a few words into the conversation of a different framing, then that will have made me very happy.
I love it. That's a great answer. Yeah, that's all I got, Clay. If you want to take us out.
Yeah, I'm certainly not going to try to top that. Instead, I will just say thank you for coming on the show again, Rae. It's always fucking amazing to have you. We're going to ask one more boon of you, which is just to rate this thing. We can let you do it first, and then if you want to pop out, you can let people know who you are one more time, where to find you. So what do you rate it? And then who are you? Where can we find you? And thank you again.
Okay, so thanks again for having me. Always a blast. I would give it 4 rips on a coffee mug bong while driving in your car rating. And you can find me at Rae Wilde. I'm mostly on Instagram and TikTok, being silly. My collection is coming out again from Shortwave next summer. Pre-order should be up soon. It's called I Do Not Apologize for My Position on Men. And yeah, if you give me a follow now, you'll get my big news coming soon that I'm very excited about.
Hell yeah. We're excited too. I can't wait to go check it out. And if you haven't yet, go read I Can Fix Her. It's fucking sick. And I'm going to continue shouting it from the rooftops, though I have no hope of fixing anybody. Thank you, Rae. We love you over here. We appreciate you, and we'll see you next time. Do you guys want to rate this too? I was just going to let you cut out if you want, Rae, because you're so late over there, but that's
I will. Yes. It's 30 for me, and I'm very, very old. But thank you again for having me. I'll drop off. Great to see you all.
Hell
Thanks
yeah.
for
Thank you
coming.
so much. Have a good night. All right. What do you guys rate it? Travis, what do you got?
Oh man, Ray's rating was so good. Except I don't smoke.
Don't even
weed,
try to
so.
top it. She
No,
wins.
but
Don't even.
yeah, I honestly, let's just leave it. Why
Okay.
don't we just not even rate it? Let's just let it sit with Rae.
I'm okay with that.
Like-
I mean, it's a sick rating, and I would rate it a very similar thing.
It's a
Yeah,
fantastic.
it's hard to do too much different.
Big fan.
Tequila.
Although I might. Yeah,
Tequila.
tequila, certainly. Also, 5, because you always need 5.
Yeah,
You need
sure.
Daphne, Velma, Shaggy, and the one I forgot was in this movie before I rewatched it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's a good one, Jeremy. So
5
5
shots of
tequila shots,
Yeah.
1 each time a character dies, and 4 bong rips from a coffee bong if you can get one. I think I will not endorse while driving in your car, but
No.
you might get away with it because you see farther than
live
they.
your life. You know?
5 shots of tequila, 4 bong rips. Thank you for being here on Fermented Fiction. We've been the usual doofuses. Travis, Jeremy, Colin, and Clay. We'll see you next week. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Bye.